Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and I have 3 stories to share with you in this very latest Moon Lambo hot jam, starting with this one from the Crypto Basic. Top trader who bet against XRP has now lost millions. Folks, maybe it is indeed true that you just can't fix stupid. Can you imagine betting against XRP, one of the most functional, useful cryptocurrencies ever created? With a track record going back over a decade, it just worked right out the box, and here we are over a decade later, consistently adopted. Despite, think about this, the greatest attack that you could have had on XRP, having the SEC come after him, that didn't stop it. And you still want to short it? What is your actual malfunction? You asking for pain. Then there is this one, also from the Crypto Basic. X-Ripple director explains why XRP is 10 times more in value than Link. And then I'll wrap up the video with this story. Alfractal CEO says investors should not buy XRP right now. Oh, is that right? Is that the best course of action, Alfractal CEO? Please tell me, with all of your sage wisdom, why it's a bad idea to have XRP right now. Oh, yes. I'm all ears, folks. Oh, it's going to be a good one. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. Now, my friends, my fellow XRP community members, this is why you do not play with leverage. I'm telling you, man, that's playing with fire. You don't need it. You absolutely don't need leverage investing in crypto. This is the most volatile and rapidly growing asset class in the history of our species. You're living through its heyday. People 100 years from now will wish that they had this type of opportunity. You can earn thousands of percentage point gains over very short periods of time, and that's not enough for you? You need more than that? You gotta spice it up with a little pepper? What is your actual malfunction? It doesn't make any sense, but some people still, they just gotta do this. And shorting XRP. Really, shorting XRP. Okay. This piece reads as follows. Renowned crypto trader Cuatio has once again suffered a significant liquidation. Well, if I say once again, keep doing it. Can't fix stupid. Once again suffered a significant liquidation on his massive XRP short position, pushing his total losses beyond $3.6 million. Dollars. As previously reported, Cuatio opened a 20x leveraged short position on 6.17 million XRP, approximately $17.6 million. Cuatio bet that XRP would drop below their entry at $2.85, well, technically $2.85.19, while setting a liquidation target at $2.91.55. And this is just a couple days ago here. However, things didn't go as planned. No way. As XRP posted modest gains yesterday, climbing to a daily high of $2.92. This closed Cuatio's position at $2.91.54, locking in a realized loss of more than $83,223. What in the ever-loving hell is wrong with some people? Like, you don't need to do this to get ridiculously wealthy in crypto. And so this guy, through a string of very poor decisions, it's like Lemony Snicket's a series of unfortunate events. That's this guy's life. Except for it's so self-imposed. Like, instead of losing $3.6 million, which is what happened to our beloved Cuatio here, instead of losing $3.6 million, just to highlight how even just like, for a brief period, holding XRP would have fared better for him. Just consider this. So again, he opened this bet when XRP was about $2.85. Well, we've got the benefit of hindsight. A couple days have passed, right? We know that yesterday, XRP ran as high as $3.10. So just consider this. If instead, imagine he hadn't lost the $3.6 million, so he could have just used it to just buy spot XRP and just own actual XRP. If he had just bought $3.6 million worth of XRP when it was $2.85, and then just a couple days later sold it when it was at $3.10. That would have been a profit, not including exchange fees, but it would have been a profit of $315,789. Wouldn't that be better than losing $3.6 million because your dumbass bet against the most useful cryptocurrency ever? Certainly for payments. There's a reason that XRP has been in the top 10 coins by market cap for its entire freaking existence. There are only 3 coins for which that is true, by the way. Bitcoin, ETH, and XRP. Those are the only coins out of tens of thousands of coins. Those are the only 3 that have always been in the top 10 coins by market cap for their entire existence. You want to bet against that. So, mind you, the market cap, that's a ranking system that the world uses. It's on a global scale. And so people with their actual money are voting up and down various cryptocurrencies and in terms of what they think is the most important, most valuable, what they believe in the most, all that. So it's the sum knowledge of global investors, the sum knowledge of all humans investing in the crypto space. But you know better than them, don't you? Oh, is that you know better than them, and you're going to bet against that? Okay, Cuatio. What the hell is that name in it? Cuatio? Cuatio? It sounds like something out of like a Bill Shakespeare write-up. We know one of those, one of them, the silly stories from the Bill Shakespeare from hundreds of years ago, or whatever the hell he was around. It sounds like what Cuatio. It's reminding me of something there. So that's stupid. Let's talk about this next one now. X-Ripple director explains why XRP is 10 times more in value than Link. I don't even need to read the article. They cited this ultimately. There's a post from Dave Weisberger, former chairman at CoinRoutes. And he said, can someone from the XRP army explain how XRP is more than 10 times Link's value, meaning Chainlink, of course, when Link has a real partnership with Swift and a clear path to revenue to be shared with token holders? And this is just so fascinating to me. To ask a question like that is to pretend as though there is no usefulness with XRP, there's no utility, there are no developers building on top of the XRP ledger that have meaningful relationships with key financial partners the world over. You'd have to actually start that as your base case, which is not reality. So it's interesting to even see such a question exist. As if XRP has to be a key piece in taking down Swift in order to have long-term viability. It does not. Now, Ripple is finding success in utilizing XRP as a bridge currency, don't get me wrong, but even if that use case failed, XRP is used for a bunch of other stuff, and it's great for payments. It has already found success. So XRP's long-term viability does not hinge on that. That's all I'm saying. It doesn't hinge on what Ripple does with it. It just doesn't. Couldn't be more obvious. Now, Matt Hamilton, a former Ripple employee, had the following to say. He wrote, trying to compare their value is sort of meaningless. Link is a protocol. The XRP ledger is an actual network. XRP is the native asset of that entire network. Link is just the token used within the Link protocol. Okay, now that's true, and that's a fair enough response, but I gotta ask this question here. Do you see the expectations from XRP? So I already decided like he's completely disregarding all of the actual utility with XRP as if there's something good that happens with Chainlink or any other coin, therefore it should be worth more than XRP in his mind. Apparently that seems to be the way that he's thinking. Let me just ask you this. Why does Ripple have all these high expectations from all these people that hate it, that hate XRP? And then you have Bitcoin with the lowest expectations there possibly ever could be. Think about this. Bitcoin is the pet rock of crypto. You might as well have that son of a bitch bronzed and set it on your mantle because that's the most usefulness you're ever going to get out of that son of a gun. I'm telling you, folks. It doesn't do stuff. Fine, it's a store of value, but it is technologically the worst cryptocurrency that's ever been created. Now, it doesn't mean it can't persist into the future and do well, and I hope it does well, honestly. It can just be the case that because it was the first and it has desirable attributes, even though you can't really do much of anything with it on layer 1 because it's slow and expensive to use, just the fact that it's the first mover and people like the attributes that it offers, that may very well be enough. That may be enough to keep it number 1 in market cap forever. Maybe not, but it could. Okay? But why the low expectations for Bitcoin? It doesn't have to do stuff, But then the second a coin finds success doing something, you have to run over and compare it to XRP. Well, the real answer is because XRP is a threat, because it does have a boatload of utility. And there are a ton of developers actually building on top of it that have meaningful partnerships. Ripple is a key one, sure, that's fine. But not just because of the utilization of XRP as a bridge currency. In fact, I'm kind of interested more so to see what they do with that prime brokerage firm they bought, Hidden Road. Because they're tokenizing $3 trillion in annual flows on the XRP ledger. You understand what that means. Like, all of those assets are going to be tokenized on the XRP ledger, which requires XRP, and every single transaction there requires XRP. Why isn't Dave Weisberger, why isn't he talking about that? You know? Why I just want to know, why are the expectations so lopsided? Why such high expectations for XRP and such low expectations for Bitcoin and everything else? Does that make sense? And again, I know the answer. I just said it. It's because people find XRP to be a threat because it does just work. And it is so useful. That's why everybody attacks it that doesn't like it. You know, that's just how it goes. They got their heavy link bags, their heavy Bitcoin bags. XRP is the enemy because it's useful. And it's a threat. Absolutely. That's the answer. This is my 2 cents. And by the way, I like Chainlink. I've been holding it since December of 2017. In fact, just a fun little side note here. In terms of percentage gains, Chainlink is the greatest success story that I've ever had. I bought it for like a quarter. I don't know exactly what date. I'd have to go back and look. But it was about 25 cents. And it's 20. So I bought it in December 2017 for about 25 cents. It's now $22.52. And I still think it's going to blast past its all-time high, so I'm just going to keep holding it. And so it's in terms of percentage gains, yes, it's my largest. But in terms of dollar gains, my biggest winner, unquestionably XRP. I put a boatload of money into it. It's already rallied tremendously. It's my favorite cryptocurrency. Yes, I'm biased, and I think it's going to run way, way, way higher, despite what the Alfractal CEO has to say. Here's the headline: Alfractal CEO says investors should not buy XRP right now. Here's why. And so this guy, he's the founder and CEO of a market resource firm called Alfractal. I hadn't heard of it before, and he's got opinions. I don't think he's being trolly. I just think he's wrong. So nothing against him on a personal level here. But I'm going to explain why I disagree after I take this sip of water. All right, I was feeling a little parched. Been talking a lot today. So anyway, here's the post from this guy. It says, "Don't buy XRP, Solana, or BNB right now. They've already pumped too much, and the risk-reward is no longer favorable. I'd even think twice about Bitcoin. The risk-reward isn't great at this stage either, and the market makers know it." I'll just pause here to say this. The one thing where I definitely agree with him is that at this stage in the game, the risk-reward profile for Bitcoin is not remotely appealing. I know a bunch of people will still buy it. I'm very happy for that because I know eventually when they take profit, it's going to rotate into the rest of the stuff that I hold, like Ethereum, XRP, Chainlink, go on down the list. So I'm very happy for that. But if you want life-changing wealth, buying XRP today, if you want it in short order anyway, that ain't the way to go. Anyway, then he says, "I'm buying the ones that haven't pumped yet and show strong signs of breaking out of accumulation. Don't invest your money just because you love project A or B. That only makes you a fan of the fundamentals. Invest in what's logical, measurable, and offers a solid risk-to-reward ratio." Okay. Look, it is true that coins that haven't pumped yet, assuming we're going to have an alt season, the logic there does make sense. So I don't disagree with everything. I'm just going to disagree, and I'll explain why on what he had to say about XRP specifically. Yes, if we have alt season, then the whole market goes buying coins that haven't pumped. Yes, of course that makes sense. But just because a coin has moved up to some degree doesn't mean that there isn't more gas in the tank. And I'm going to highlight that with XRP. Here's a post I shared just the other day. This is from chart analyst Ether Nacional. I don't know how to say that. The XRP Q4 2017 wave is literally there, he writes. Whatever happened in 2017 is happening again now. The structure is identical: accumulation, move up, reaccumulation, move up, and the path to distribution. So he's basically saying what happened in 2017 is unfolding right now. I believe that is highly probable. I think that's likely the case. And I've been stating that. Frankly, I was stating that would be the case before we had the burst in November. Just because history tends to rhyme with itself. You get a huge move up, then consolidation, reaccumulation, and then another major move up. And so we're waiting for that final one. And so you can look and you can see what he was highlighting right here. This is 2017. This move right here is big. This one here was actually bigger. Now, in this image, it doesn't look like that's the case. It looks like where I'm moving my mouse right now, the second burst, it looks like that's smaller. But that's just because you're looking at logarithmic scale rather than linear scale. So if you look at, here's the all-time price chart on Live Coin Watch for XRP. So if you have it on log, here you can see in 2017, this is the first major price jump, and it looks bigger than the second one. But if you go to linear, which is what it looks like in real life, now it looks like that. So what happened here? So you had your first major pump. So XRP was about half a penny in the beginning of 2017. It ran up to a close. The close high for XRP, if this is right, it looks like it was about 30 cents. I don't know if that's the final day because it's not highlighting every single day because this is so zoomed out. But it doesn't matter. I'm just trying to get the idea across. I know that the intraday high the intraday peak, all-time high at that point, I know it got up to like at least like 42 cents. So I know it's showing a close on the screen of 30 cents there. It actually got up to like closer to 42 cents. So you could say, okay, this coin, it's already run from half a penny up to 42 cents. I wouldn't buy that XRP thing here. Well, except for there was way more opportunity. In fact, it went down and consolidated around 20 cents, a little below 20 cents. And then it went on this rampage. Look at this. And Live Coin Watch is showing a peak of $3.91. It was actually $3.35. And I don't want to get into the reasons why I've talked about it on the channel. It's a result of false data having to do with South Korea. I don't want to get into it right now. Just Google it if you're curious. The real all-time high was $3.35. But I say this to point. The biggest dollar move came in the second move to the upside. The second one, not the first. The biggest dollar move was in the second. Now, same thing holds true in last cycle in 2020 and 2021. You had XRP go from about 20 cents up to about 80 cents in November 2020. And of course, you know, the price action, we didn't see a new all-time high because of the artificial price suppression because of the SEC lawsuit. We all know that. But still, it did have a second move up. And that was in April 2021. And that was a bigger move. It was a bigger move because XRP ran ultimately all the way up to $2. Now it's showing the close here of $1.62. But you did have an intraday high of $2. I shared a screen grab of it back in 2021. It's on my profile. Like, it definitely happened, I'm telling you. And so that was a bigger move. The second, half a year later, the second move up, that was the bigger move in terms of dollars. Now mind you, that was when the SEC was artificially suppressing XRP. It still moved that screen. Okay, so now here we are all these years later. XRP is the #1 performing coin out of the top 100 coins by market cap since the election. It's clearly been artificially suppressed all this time. The market's playing catch up. And you're telling me that the best that we're going to see from XRP this cycle already happened in terms of dollars? I don't think so. I have a hard time believing that. I'm not so bold as to make price predictions because it's just not my shtick. I'm not a chart guy myself. But my conviction, like I have conviction just like the rest of you do, and general thoughts on this. I believe this thing's going way higher before the cycle's over. Way, way, way freaking higher. So when he's saying here, wouldn't buy XRP, like, okay, you guys buy or sell or hold whatever you want. I don't care. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not advising in any sort of way. I'm just sharing my honest thoughts on this. I just think by the time the cycle's done, you're going to look back and people will just be in stunned amazement. Like, you'll look at this, and again, nothing against this guy. I agree with some of the stuff he said. I just think, what he's saying about XRP just doesn't make sense. And that's fine. He's entitled to his opinion. But I think you'll look back on a post like this and be like, whoa. Because if XRP's truly going into double-digit land, like, what if some of these analysts that are talking about 20 or 30 bucks are right? And understand that most coins aren't going to hit new all-time highs, but if there's one coin that's gonna, even from here, and it already has hit new all-time highs this cycle, it'd be XRP. It's very obvious that it is situated in such a way, and the fundamentals are such that it's a clear early winner of the crypto space. You want to bet it? You want to bet against that? I don't think so. I'm not. Hell no. Doesn't mean I won't sell for a profit. Of course I will. But man, I just do not disagree. I just do not agree with this guy specifically on what he's saying about XRP. Some of the other stuff, yeah. I think that's pretty reasonable, but not about XRP. To each their own, but I'm just going to keep riding this thing to wherever it goes because I believe that the best is yet ahead, and we're not there yet. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the Moon Lambo.